Hi guys, Chris here and welcome to my review of the UMI Super. So this is a MediaTek Helio P10 powered mobile phone with 4GB of RAM. Let's have a look in detail and see whether this phone is any good or not. The Super has a 5.5-inch 1080p screen, and on the rear you see it has a metal housing. We have a fingerprint scanner, dual LED flash, and 13-megapixel camera, as well as a secondary mic. And on the right hand side, power on, volume up and down, and a Type-C port, microphone and loudspeaker. On the left hand side there is the quick launch button and the SIM tray. On the top, a 3.5mm headphone jack and a front facing 5-megapixel camera, earpiece and proximity and light sensor. So the build of it is quite good, fits in hand quite nice, and easy access to the power and volume buttons right there. And all in all, I do like the build of it. So the screen has 342 lumens of brightness, which isn't the brightest screen, but you can see here in the shade I can still make it out just fine. And now in the sun, I'm still able to see just what is on the screen. So the SIM tray on the Super supports 2 micro SIMs, or you can use a micro SD card and a SIM as seen here. It's running Android 6 with a stock launcher, which is good to see, and they haven't installed any bloat applications. The only applications that were on there were just basically the Google apps, the essentials there. You get Google Calendar, Play Store of course is there, and other stock applications like play games, play movies. So there are only a few tweaks that they've made there. We do have a turbo download mode, which allows you to use your SIM card and wireless at the same time to help increase your download speeds. There is a notification light down here that they call the Harlequin LED. You can change that, tweak that a little bit. And there are virtual, when I first got it, there were virtual menu keys. And I thought, hang on, doesn't this have home button and back and menu keys, hardware ones? Yes, it does, but you have to actually go and enable that. For some reason, it wasn't there, the option, until I downloaded an over-the-air update. It is now there, buttons, you can choose between button type, the physical buttons, or then the virtual ones to change to virtual. I of course here prefer having hardware buttons so I'm not losing any screen space. So the ROM itself performs really well. I haven't any problems with it whatsoever. I haven't seen any stutter or lag. Everything opens up quite quick and easy. Definitely the CPU side of things of the Helio P10 is perfectly fine. I do find that to be acceptable. And I'll just run through now some of the benchmarks that I did run. So this was the over-the-air update that I got. So that's the version that I'm reviewing here. You can see that's the UMI Super ROM version 3.0. This is the Geekbench 3 score. That's not actually a bad score at all, considering this is a mid-range chipset. Has an octa-core. And these are the internal storage speeds. These speeds are quite good because it is running an eMMC 5.1. So the faster one, and is actually a Samsung eMMC there. So good sequential reads, writes, and the randoms too, quite fast. Here is the Antutu score. So this is where the device starts to show a lack of performance, is in the GPU. The GPU, the Mali T860, it's only a 2-core, and it's not really the fastest there. So scores are slightly slow when it comes to 3D performance. That was Slingshot. This is Ice Storm. Ice Storm Unlimited score. Now the 4G speeds, I managed to get some really good upload speeds. So you can see 32 megabits per second. That is quite good. The download, I think it was down to the network saturation. It really does vary because sometimes there'll be a lot of people on and the same antenna using the same tower as me downloading a lot. But I find those speeds that I got quite acceptable. And the GPS works quite well, locks on. It didn't have any problem at all actually getting a lock. The first boot only took literally about 3 seconds. And moving around town and using it in my car, I found the GPS performance to be perfectly fine. I have no complaints whatsoever with it. Now I did run the PC Mark battery life test. I calibrated the display to 200 lumens of brightness as they recommend, and I managed to get 8 hours and 31 minutes. Now the first time I did this test, I only got 6 hours. So I fully discharged and recharged the battery, and it gave me this score here which I think is more correct to the capacity of the battery, which is 4000 milliamp hours. So not a bad score at all. You can see there that it just gradually declines, and then once the test gets to 20%, it does actually stop there. And the screen on time was 7 hours and 14 minutes. So battery life, I think, definitely acceptable. So you might have seen that the Super has this shortcut button here. And what it basically does is just let you quick launch your own favorite application there. So it's a little bit of a gimmick. And you have settings right here. So there's shortcut button settings. You can go along and select the application that you want to launch. So here I have the camera and select, for example, I want to launch Clash of Clans with that button. So now simply pressing that will now start Clash of Clans. So it does have a fingerprint reader on the rear for increased security. And here I've added my same finger 5 times. So I'll just demonstrate to you. There's the reader on the back. Didn't work, didn't work, didn't work. There we go. So that took 3 attempts. I'll lock it again. We'll try again. That worked straight away. That worked straight away. Didn't work. Second go. So it's not actually flawless. It tends to work, I would say, a good 3 out of 5 times. So it's not perfect. I found that when you haven't used the phone for a little while and go to use your fingerprint to wake it up and unlock it, it won't work straight away. But once you used it and you're using it and then you put it in and then it will work for some reason. So there seems to be a little bit of a driver problem there. The fingerprint reader does work, but it is a little slow, and definitely, as you can see, it's not always working 100% of the time. So the camera is a 13 megapixel Panasonic sensor with a 4:3 ratio, and honestly there is not much to talk about when it comes to the camera, so I'm not going to spend too long on this. We get various different options on there, settings in there. You can add GPS, all the standard. Camera mode, there is a 0 shutter delay. Now I found the shutter to be okay, but when you're in lower light conditions, the shutter, the viewfinder lag is quite horrible. It's a little slow, the camera. And the video mode, we do have electronic image stabilization, and the video setting on fine is in 1080p. The problem with the camera is the software. I will show you now just some sample images that they've just got the colors completely wrong here. UMI. This photo in particular, in fact all of them, the sky is supposed to be a nice blue, the sea nice and blue, and there's an orange kind of rock look to it, but everything just seems grey. The sky's grey. The same here. In fact, this really demonstrates the fact that the sky should look a very nice blue tone, and it's not there. It's just grey. It's awful. Front-facing camera also takes the same kind of grade, odd colouring. It's just not really that good at all. And here is a 1080p sample. Yet again, the colours, UMI, your software optimization is completely wrong here. So not good at all.
Tap the screen.
Well, the camera does capture some detail. Really, I find it to be truly the most disappointing part of this mobile phone. So I'm going to quickly play a track here on YouTube just to hear how the loudspeaker sounds. By the way, the performance in the browser, like any octa-core mobile, is very smooth, very fluid. I don't really need to go into any detail there with the browser, but the loudspeaker, let's check that out now. 100% volume. Okay, so the loudspeaker is disappointing. It should be a lot louder than what it is, but I can report that the 3.5mm jack, very good to see that it does have one and not just the Type-C port. This port outputs a lot louder than the speaker itself, and the quality is quite clear. And voice calls. I have made one voice call on here, and I had no problems at all listening to the person on the other end. The quality, they said, seemed fine. They didn't notice any difference from me switching mobile phones from what I normally use, which is a Galaxy S7 on my Mi Max. No difference there whatsoever. So call quality seems quite good, and at least the 3.5mm output is good. But the loudspeaker, thumbs down. So let's have a look and see how the UMI Super games. This title here is GT Racing 2. So despite those lower benchmark scores, the 3D Mark and Antutu, it's handling this game fine. The GPU can still handle 1080p gaming, I think, okay. This title is Marvel Contest of Champions. This last title is Mortal Kombat X. So that's running smooth. This is quite a demanding game. So the Meli T860 can handle 1080p gaming just fine. It'll probably struggle with a 1440p screen, but here with 1080, super smooth, no problems. So while the UMI Super I don't think is a bad phone, the camera definitely lets it down. There's some serious software optimization that needs to be going on there. UMI need to really focus on fixing that. Otherwise it performs well, it plays games quite well with 1080p, the GPU can handle that. So benchmark scores from the GPU aren't great. And you can get mobile phones out there that have Snapdragon 650s or the Helio X10 for about the same price and even slightly better build quality from the likes of Lieco and Xiaomi. So maybe you should look around on the market. There's definitely other options out there. Thank you so much for watching this review, and hopefully see you back in the channel with more up and coming reviews on tech from China.